the past day or two. October 20 siya pinaslang. I reviewed his history so that I can be prepared when it comes. Matagal pa pala. But that is one of the most significant events in my sense of history. Tasio Del Mar is with you and analysis and reflections on these developments. But the key today is we just got the report a few minutes ago that number one, of course, big issue yung pangkat nila Risa Hontiveros, yung mga ACT Teachers Group, yung mga DFA and so on. Talagang tinamaan talaga yung mga mob Roque, Attorney Harry Roque. Na indeed, yung mga mob Roque, Attorney Harry Roque. Na indeed, talagang nagkaroon ng kasunduan si President Xi Jinping at si President Duterte tungkol sa fisheries agreement, tungkol sa status ng South China Sea to maintain the status quo of the South China Sea. And siguro maalala ng iba dyan na tayo ang unang naglabas po nung historical evidence na may kasunduan, 2017, the news reports at that time, the words of President Duterte himself, and the reports from all media, and yung so-called arbitration na some trade data po to enlighten people about the real status ng Philippine-China trade. At imbis na lumiit, lalong lumalaki, kahit na po ang total trade ng Pilipinas with the world ay bumababa. So, bumababa po ang ating trade sa iba't ibang mga bansa except with China, tumataas ng 2.7%. So, we'll discuss that. Of course, yung mga paawa effect ng Philippine Coast Guard and Philippine Navy, pag-uusapan po natin yan.
Lord have mercy!
And ewan kong napanood na po nung ibang mga nasa audience po natin, doon sa water cannoning po incident, meron pong nagtaas sa Philippine Coast Guard ship in one of the ships that was delivering to the BRP Sierra Madre, nagtaas ng white flag, wagayway ng white flag. Did you see that na video? Ayun, pinapakita na nila.
Sumuko na naman ang Pilipinas.
Oh. Well, natural lang po talagang sabi nga mas mataas ngayon yung water pressure na ginamit ng Chinese Coast Guard, no? Now, sa totoo lang po, napapag-usapan namin ni Ka Joshua ito kanina. Sabi ko, alam mo Ka Joshua, ginagawa na naman ng gobyerno ng Pilipinas at ng mga Amerikano. Inuulit na naman nilang SAF 44 incident. Kanilang pinapaing, sinasakripisyo ang sundalo, in that case, kapulisan ng Pilipino. At ito po, tinutulak ng mga general, ng mga National Security Council directors, si Anyo, yung si Browner, tinutulak sa walang kalaban-laban na kapinsalaan ng ating mga seaman, ang ating mga personnel sa Philippine Coast Guard and our military people in the war that the Americans are designing Ukraine 2.0 for Filipinos to die in. But we'll go to that when our agenda brings us to that issue. So we have already reported on two major issues we will be discussing. The rest will be about Philippine-China relations pa rin, commentaries, Ukraine po, yung massacre po sa Crocus sa Russia, and anong implikasyon po nito dahil po meron tayong iuulat na artikulo galing sa, well, we'll take a look at it later, na ito ay talagang nagtutulak po towards a nuclear confrontation between Russia and NATO and the US. And of course, when that happens, hindi makakaiwas po. Yan po ay mahahawa ang Asia. na gusto din talaga itulak ng Estados Unidos sa gera. Sinabi na po natin yan, isang taon na natin inuulit po yan. That is why we have to stop the war. We have to stop our own situation here in the country from deteriorating and return to the peace and tranquility that has ruled us in the ASEAN region and Asia for the past 50, 60 years. No? Okay. Yung ang ating babasahin na warning po about World War III is from the American Veterans Intelligence Professionals, an organization na napakarami pong mga retired and active American intelligence professionals po. We'll read that later on to you. But Kado, I hope you're not yet pagod. Kagagaling mo lang sa taping with sila Jing and sila Elisa Lodar. Anong pinag-usapan nyo?
Well, ito nga pinag-usapan namin, yung mga kabubuhan ni Gibo Teodoro at mga kabubuhan ni Jonathan Malaya at mga kabubuhan ni Jay Batumbakal. Yan ang mga magdadala sa inyo sa kalagiman, mga kabansa, dahil mali-mali ang mga, sabi nga ni Presidente Marcos, wala raw silang nire-reject sa mga proposals ng China. But the premise, sabi niya, is the one that we question. Ang problema, Mr. President, yung premise mo, Bobo Marcos ka. Ang mali. Ang mali. And I don't know, I haven't gone into the other slides. Mamaya siguro, tatalakayin natin kung ano mga rason kung bakit ganito. At anong sabi ni Gibo Teodoro? Wala ka namang masabi, Gibo Teodoro eh. Ano sinabi mo? Titihaya na lang ba tayo? Is that a statement of a Secretary of National Defense? Obviously devoid of information and policy. Gibo, pag yung utak mo ang pinalayag mo, hindi tayo titihaya na lamang. Tayo.
At saka, malinaw na po, maganda po ang negosasyon ng China at Pilipinas. Nagkakaroon nga ng mga magagandang at very promising mga projects na napag-usapan na, yung joint oil and gas deal between China and the Philippines na mas malaki pa ang pakinabang ng Pilipinas kaysa sa China. So, anong titihaya? Matino po ang usapan ng panahon ni Duterte. Winawasak po nitong panahon ni BBM. Well, we'll go into that. But I will quickly go through first the first part of our agenda, Buhay Pilipino. Buhay Pilipino. This is a new aspect that I have brought out. And we will start with the normal relations, people-to-people relations of the Filipinos and Chinese across the Taiwan Straits, across the Luzon Straits, between Cagayanons and China. Nakapagpanalo po, nagwagi sa Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area Mathematical Olympiad ang dalawang Cagayanong bata, si Ronel Ledesma Tubong Solana, Cagayan, ng gold medal sa ilalim ng senior secondary group, habang fourth place at with merit award naman ang Tubong Tuguegarao City na si Earl Kennedy Bossy. Yan po. So ito ay yesterday lang po. Well, I took this 2 days ago, no? So a few days back po itong ulat na hinatid po ng Cagayan Provincial Information Office. So normal po at maganda po ang relasyon ng people to people. These things are going on continuously. Marami pong mga sister to sister cityhood po sa Pilipinas at China. Maraming activities, lalo ng Davao. Maybe I think we might have an item or two later about Davao. Buhay Pilipino, ay yung pong si ating kasamang Danny Long po ay na-interview lagi at this last time po, I think over an hour with Joy de Viver. I don't know how to pronounce the French. Basta si Joy po, tungkol sa kanyang artikulong BBM resign, Bongbong resign. Yan po. And you can watch these discussions po nila. I don't know how to access them, but I'm sure most of you know more than me how to access the different sites po. Kadyoso, parang nag-freeze yung aking image dito sa Facebook na isa. At dito sa isang Facebook din, parang hindi umaandar. I-check. Our YouTube, let me just take a look. Is okay. Yeah, it's okay. So, okay, buhay Pinoy pa rin po after anyway. Okay, and ito naman ang malungkot. Parang si Wesley So, ang ating chess master, na dahil sa magulong mga intriga sa mga sports federations po natin, mga isahan, onsehan sa budget po ng mga sports programs po natin, si Wesley So, imbis na maglaro para sa Pilipinas, I think he went to become an American to play for the United States. I hope I'm not wrong there. I have to recollect it. No, I'm correct. Sabi ni Kadyoso, Now naman, si naman, what's her name? Maxine Esteban, champion fencer, ng Pilipinas po. She will be fencing for Cote d'Ivoire sa Africa. Filipina fencing phenomenon Maxine Esteban earned her spot in the 2024 Paris Olympics, yet she will not represent the Philippines but the Ivory Coast. She left the Philippines national fencing team and opted to change nationalities because of how she was treated. After suffering an injury, she was axed off the team. Actually, na-intriga yan, na-intriga. Okay, and ang ating last episode po ng GTNR po, sa huling pagbisita ko po ay naka 17,000 views, 17,000 views, and still getting more views from day to day. And this trend has been growing the past few episodes, the past half a dozen episodes, and will continue to grow. Because I think maraming nakakakita na po ng mga nauulat po natin at mga pag-aanalisa na talaga tumutumbok po sa katotohanan. Okay, and the latest issue po ng Pinoy Expose, bisitahin niyo sa website niya. Hindi lang po para sa column natin, si Mentong may column po dyan. But ang mga editorials po ng ating kasamang si Paul Gutierrez, who in spite of being appointed to be deputy, I think deputy, doon sa government presidential task force on media security, ay talagang hard-hitting pa rin sa mga editorials niya laban sa imperialismo ng Estados Unidos. At nakakatulong ng malaki po sa ating pagtaguyod ng katotohanan sa mga issues related to China. Tulad nito po sa front page po ng latest edition ng Pinoy Expose, China offers to broker Middle East peace talks. Ayan po, patuloy po ang pagtataguyod ng kapayapaan ng China po. Andiyan po, the grand art of deflection, sabi ni sa column naman ni sa baba, makikita niyo ni Paul Gutierrez in my column. And sino ba itong next one? I forget the name. Ang hindi ko lang nire-recommenda itong isang huli. Ito po talagang hindi ko nasasabihin kasi colleague ko dyan sa diaryo, pero hindi po maasahan niya na magsulat ng matino. Anyway, let's move on to the next Buhay Pinoy report natin. I think this is now, this is now not Buhay Pinoy, but ating politika na po sa Pilipinas. And this is one of the highlights po sa ating leads dito sa ating anunsyo ng ating programa ngayong gabi. There was an earlier poster that was erroneous kasi nagmamadali po kami. Nalagay po ang maling mga leads, no? But na-correct na po din to sa final poster po natin. But anyway, ngayon naman matapos na itinulak po yung pagtanggal ng prangkisa ng SMNI, which I understand from Joshua hindi pa po tapos kasi dadaan pa sa Senado. Am I correct? Yeah, so SMNI still has its franchise, no? Alam po ninyo, I cannot really cover all the issues anymore sa dami po ng ating ginagawa. We are also taking care of the welfare of some of our member writers and professors, ano, yung ating mga tao, mga ating comrades sa Bisaya. We have to take care of them also, and the times are very hard, ano? So we have to pay attention to so many things. But anyway, ngayon naman po, itinutulak ng mga proxy, US proxy, in this particular case, Rappler, si Antonio J. Montalban II, isang dilawan talaga, panahon pa ni Cory, talagang super loyal yan kay Cory dahil po yung asawa niya ay RTBM dati, no? Radio, television, RTBM, RTBM, yeah. Radio, television, Visayas Mindanao ba? I forget the full name, but that is the Malacanang media group na ngayon nasa ilalim na po ni Garapal. So we posted this in our poster kasi this is a major issue. Samantalang may mga bumabatikos po dyan na nakababasa ko lang sa APCO thread ng isang torpe na post na nagpo-post po doon na wala namang kaalam-alam sa history, sa mundo, ano, na-appoint lang dito, nagpapa-appoint sa gobyerno. Anyway, nagkikritisismo tungkol sa religious practice daw sa China and so on. Dito, tingnan po natin, last episode natin, we reported the Lipa apparition that the Vatican in 1951 already said is not of God. Pero dito po, may sekta pa po, tinutulak po dahil anti-China yung ilang mga sinasabi daw doon sa Lipa apparition, which the Vatican itself already ruled how many years ago? 1951. Almost over 50, 60, 70 years ago. Walang katotohanan. But we have to, kailangan bantayan natin po ito. Kibuloy sect to be outlawed. Sabi dito unang-una, tinawag nilang sekta. Di dapat yung Iglesia ni Cristo, sekta din. Lahat ng mga maliliit na born-again groups ay sekta na rin. Pati si Kaado, isasama na sa mga sekta kasi Kaado is not an ordinary Catholic na anymore, no? It's Kaado. Anyway, we'll ask for his comments dito mamaya, ano?
Iba ako, hindi ako sekta.
Well,
sexy.
I'll go to you in a while about that. At least short comment, no? Pero let's talk about our process ng pagpipili po ng liderato. Mamaya po iulat po natin yung sinabi po ni Bato Ronald de la Rosa on Attorney Harry Roque's claim regarding gentleman's agreement between former President Duterte and C involving Ayung Insyong. Clueless ako. Yan ang mga senador po natin. Tanga. Pulis nga. Pulis nga. General pa. Pero tanga. But let's go to the right process. No? Ito po, 1 year before the Singapore elections in November 2024 this year, no? Napili na po ang papalit kay Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong as party head and therefore Prime Minister upon the coming of the Singapore election. Si Lawrence Wong, Deputy Prime Minister ngayon, kaya po siya ay pinalipat-lipat sa iba't ibang mga post as Deputy Prime Minister na and iba't ibang mga portfolio na hinahanda po siya. Let us look at what kind of preparation in the next frame natin. Ayan, nilagay na po ni Joshua, sinama niya in one frame, no? Okay, Mr. Lawrence Wong was chosen to take responsibility as the 4th Prime Minister of Singapore. a double degree and PhD holder from Harvard University in Economics, was selected after he received the highest score in character, performance, integrity. So ini-scoring po sila. Paano kung si Bato de la Rosa, si Risa Hontiveros, at kung sino-sino pa dyan, nagdumaan sa scoring? Ano kaya po lalabas? He received the highest score in character, performance, integrity, quality, and job KPI. I don't know what KPI means, but scoring po talaga yan. No? Mr. Lawrence scored 0 in the following: public complaints, police traffic summons, public summons, racial hatred statements, corruption and bribery, legal court cases, no tax fraud case, no abuse of power case, FBI, CIA, Interpol checks. How about that for determining leadership competency rather than flogging the old horse of party-based democracy? Yan. Okay, let's move on sa ating. Ito namang pangkat, itong mob, itong sekta, itong mga ipis ni Risa Hontiveros at ng mga Pinklawan, Dilawan, ni Cory Aquino, at isang US proxy group talaga sa Pilipinas, AkBayad Party. Imbis na pabayaan na yung kaso labang kay Kibuloy sa korte, kung may kaso na, actually mamaya we will discuss na wala pang kasong extradition si Kibuloy. Ito pong propaganda by publicity, black propaganda by publicity po ang ginagawa po ng US proxy na AkBayad Party and Risa mob na to. Nagkakalat ng polyeto, warning daw ng mga kabataan, Apollo Kibuloy, ganyan po, kita po ninyo sa screen po ninyo. This is of course Hitlerian propaganda. This is of course Goebbelian, yung propaganda chief ni Hitler. This is of course anti-Semitic style, meaning anti-Jewish style. Basta this is cancel culture. All the worst that propagandists can do. Kita po ninyo yan. We'll ask Ado how he would react, but sabi po ni yung ba yung anak ni Risa Hontiveros na president ng AkBayad kasama si Risa Hontiveros. Okay, and let me see, merong nag-text merong nag-Viber sa atin. Let's see if we can KPIs. Excuse me, key performance indicators. So, thank you for the help kasi kung minsan hindi natin kikita na po yung mga detalye. No? Okay. So tandaan po ninyo, and if you have time, take out this poster from our show and spread it around and criticize it po sa Facebook, sa Twitter at kung saan po. No? Because this is already a criminal. Well, maybe we can consider filing a case to help support decency and morality in our public activities. Itulong nating maliit kay Kibuloy. Kasuhan po itong grupong ito at yung leader po nitong AkBayad Party ngayon. Let's ask Kaado for in a while. Economic na po ang susunod. We'll call on Kaado. Are you there? Are you back there, Kaado?
Yeah.
Yung kampanya, yung church muna, if you have any comments there, itong major issue natin ng black propaganda labang kay Kibuloy na ginagawa po ng US proxy group AkBayad mob po ng Risa Hontiveros and Company.
Una-una, just to correct a little bit, no? Hindi hindi ito yung asawa ni Maria Montelibano.
Ano ba?
Hindi yan. Ito yung taga Mindanao na writer na si Antonio.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, I stand corrected.
Yung meron siyang, ano ba yung kanya, Closing in Mindanao yata, something like that, na column dati sa
Inquirer, meron pa rin.
Inquirer. Meron pa rin ba?
Meron pa rin.
So ito parte ng mga bayaran ng Rappler Omidyar Network.
Hindi yan ka Joshua, hindi yan ang tinutukoy natin. Hindi.
Kibuloy Sec, be outlawed. Kibuloy Sec. So si Antonio Montalban, pero the second so hindi na natin maalam, baka anak ito. No? So this is bad because in the democracy that we have adopted, that Cory Aquino had adopted, was precisely to legalize communism and all these groups, no, to go into the political exercise, the parliamentary solution to insurgency. Eh dito, tinutulak nila yung sektor ni Kumuloy by outlawing it to go underground. My God! These are 7 million people to 8 million people, and you want them to go underground? Are you kidding me? And lately, the Moral National Liberation Front has already signified its intention to fully support Kibuloy. At palagay ko, MNLF ang nagtatago kay Kibuloy ngayon. No? So what is your beef? Hindi ko maintindihan to. So, float kayo ng mga clickbait articles na ganito. Wala kayong, this is pure and simple defamation, public trial by publicity, at mahiya kayo because you are assuming, like Risa Hontiveros, for instance, no? Question ang kanyang moral ascendancy ng dati niyang kasama na isang kadre, one of the first cadres in the Kabataang Makabayan, na si Peter Mutok. And uulitin ko lang yung sinabi ni Peter Mutok. Ito hindi nang galing sa amin. Hindi ito nang galing sa Opinion Online. Hindi ito nang galing sa GTNR, sa Global Talk News Radio. That you can see sa YouTube channel where Peter Mutok accused Risa Hontiveros, quote in Tagalog, bawal makiapit. So the condemnation is Risa Hontiveros, don't assume that you have a moral ascendancy because you have been guilty of sleeping with a married man. No? Hindi ko nasasabihin yung letter A kasi hindi naman yun ang I will just translate. Ang pakikiapid po is having an affair, no? Sleeping, having sex with a married man. Yan. At sinabi ni Peter Mutok na hindi ba yan mahigpit na pinagbabawal ng Biblia. So, yun, pupuntusan ko na lang doon si Risa Hontiveros. Kaya itong ginagawa nilang ito na sila naglalabas ng parang wanted posters, wanted leaflets. This is litishable under our revised penal code. At talong natin kay Tito Rafi, kay Chupaeng, Tubera, kung ito ay pwede natin sampahan ng demanda. So yan. So what are you implying? What are you outlawing? So hindi ko maintindihan ang utak ng mga ito. Talagang twisted. At saka really nakakita na naman sila ng resurrection, Mentong, ng cancel culture nung panahon ni Noynoy Aquino. They are now again engaging in political cannibalism. Okay? So ayan ang comment ko dyan, no?
Okay.
Tungkol dyan. So, kaya ko sinabi kanina na hindi ako si sekta, ako ay sexy.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, binabalikan ko lang yung mga balita na ating naiulat. So that's about the major issue that you want to dwell on. So let's go to the economy. Dito sa unang item po sa economic issues natin po, itong galing sa Inquirer March 25, Marcos administration to borrow 585 billion. So this is around 10 billion US dollars from local creditors in quarter 2. Ngayon, ito ay inuulat ko para magbigay ng kaunting kaalaman tungkol sa financial system po natin. Kaibahan po ng ating financial system from Singapore, yung minamasama ng mga puti na authoritarian governments dahil po ang state po ang may control ng pera, hindi po pribadong mga bangko. Ganyan din po sa Vietnam, sa China, mga socialist countries po. Dito, ang gobyerno po natin na dapat siyang nakakapag-imprenta ng pera lang. Imprenta lang naman talaga ang pera eh. Pinililipat po sa bangko, mga private bank po, yung control ng pera na inuutang po ng gobyerno mula sa kanila. Kaya dito, local debt po ng gobyerno sa local creditors, doon sa second quarter lang hindi kasama ang first quarter nito, is already 585 billion. Kaya po yung mga bankero, mga may-ari ng mga bangko, na tied up po din sila sa private oligarch enterprises, tahimik po tungkol sa mga suliranin ng lipunan po natin dahil po sila ang talagang nakikinabang po sa mga ito. Hindi po yan naiba din sa control ni Manny Pangilinan o mga nagko-control sa Manny Pangilinan ay not the local bankers po but the international bankers, international financial cartel. Siyempre yung mga local banks natin po ay may tie-up din po sa international financial cartel. Kaya po nung counter-revolution ni Cory nung 1986, the first thing she did was to do many of the financial counter-revolutionary moves, tulad ng ang monetary board po natin, imbis na mas maraming government representative, binaliktad po niya mas maraming private sector representative. So, pribado po ang nagko-control ng monetary policy ng Pilipinas. Iyan ay isa sa mga ginawa niya. And by the year 2000, I'm trying to recall the details po. I was communicating with the National Treasurer po. Lopez, first name, I try to remember. I cannot remember right now, because she was complaining and reporting to me that the government was transferring the functions of the National Treasurer to the private sector, to the private bank din. Tulad ng pinakamalaki ay yung issuance and the management of the sale and the custodianship of the the custodianship of the T-bills, treasury bills of the country. Yung mga inuutang na treasury bills, binibentang treasury bills, ang nangangalaga po ngayon ay mga private banks na dati po ito ay government under the National Treasurer. So this is an essential concept that we must understand. Mga ating tinataguyod na pagbabalik po sa kamay ng Estado ng ating kuryente, tubig and so on, yung issuance of money ay dapat ibalik din sa tamang central bank. Hindi po itong central bank na quasi-private po ito. Mamaya, we have more reports about the central bank. Next, coming up. Okay. Yung Maharlika Investment Fund naman po at ang DBP at Land Bank po na parehong kinunan po ng up to 50 billion and 20 billion each. I'm not sure anymore lately kung gaano kalaki, but the total po, kinunan po din ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas ng pondo basta't over 100 billion pesos po ang kinuha. Ngayon po, humihingi ng tulong ang DBP at Land Bank, no, to seek BSP, Bangko Sentral Relief Extension. Now, let's look at the details nung paki-focus ka, Joshua. To recall, the DBP and Land Bank sought regulatory relief in October last year due to concerns that the bank might find it difficult to comply with the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas kasi may charter po yan, di ba? Minimum capital adequacy ratio requirement after contributing to the country's first sovereign wealth fund. Nung kinunan sila ng pondong ganyang kalaki po, nagkulang na sila ng capital requirement. Let me read the lower part. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas requires both state-run lenders to maintain a minimum of 10% capital adequacy ratio. Otherwise, they would face sanctions for any breach. Well, they're going to face sanctions already. Ibinigyan lang po sila ng palugit. Para pagkakitaan pa nila ang taong bayan din, ang Bangko Sentral. Pagkakitaan tayo sa mga issuance ng pera and issuance ng debt and so on. So ganyan po ka-vicious yung money grabbing po nitong mga institusyon na to dahil na-privatize nga nung panahon ni Cory, nung after the EDSA 1 revolution. So, ayan, this is a continuing crisis, a growing crisis hanggang sumabog po ito. We are already seeing America ready to explode because of their financial crisis. Siyempre tayo tuta-tuta lang sa Amerika, tayo susunod po dyan. Okay, and on the real economy naman po, hindi lang pera-pera, kundi real economy, what's happening? Salamat kay kasamang Algalang, kanyang pinost po ito na ang Management Association of the Philippines, the top managing group of managers, the group of the top managers of the country, mga big corporations, mga managers nandiyan po. Very often they come up in public with policy issues, policy questions that affects the economy and their businesses na malalaki at maliliit. Small and medium scale enterprises are also represented there. Ano po ang panawagan ng MAP, Management Association of the Philippines? They're seeking a calamity declaration na madeklara ang calamity po, disaster, ang ating traffic over traffic woes in Metro Manila. At kasama ata dito sa kanilang hiningi, ayon dito sa quote galing kay Algalang, emergency powers granted the president to mitigate the 3,500,000, tama ba? Or no, 3,500,000,000 pesos daily losses to the economy owing to a debilitating metro traffic mess. Yan. Any solution here? No solution at all for the next 5 years under BBM kasi po nasaan po yung mga train projects na pinopondo ng China. Yung subway, of course, nandyan, na-delayed ang pondo ng Japan kasi we just updated and merong hinahabol ng pondo ng Japan. But that is not going to be enough. Masama ba yung sabay-sabay po? Lahat ng mga projects, may pondo naman galing sa China? Hindi. Ayaw ng Amerikano, ayaw ng mga puti, ayaw ng mga Yakuza. Sunod naman ang takusa, takot sa USA. Okay, and the reality of the economy sa kabila po ng mga daldalan ng ating mga DFA, Department of Trade, people, mga politiko sa Senado, itong nakaraang 2023, ang Pilipinas po, naging negative growth po ang total import and export trade volume. Ang kabuuan ng ating pangangalakal sa labas ng bansa ay bumagsak ng -8%. Pero ang trade volume between China and the Philippines tumaas ng 2.7%. Yun lang po ang naging positibo, hindi nga mabawi yung nawala po sa trade sa ibang bansa na nawala po ng Pilipinas. Tapos aawayin nila ang China na wala naman pong mga perwisyong ginagawa. West Philippine Sea, West Philippine Sea sila. Kahit natanggalin mo ang China, nandyan pa din ang Vietnam, Malaysia, at Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, Indonesia, Taiwan. Malaking panlolokong ginagawa nila. They are getting away with it because of mainstream media lang. That is all. Nothing more. Because we are reporting to you the real facts that are important tulad nitong trade information na to. Hindi po natin makikita na ito ay nagiging major headline po para matugunan po ng bayan na tamang mga solusyon. Okay, that's the economy. Ado, Joshua, and anybody else who want to comment, mamaya I'll try to read our comments from our audience. Kado, ikaw muna sa economy natin and what you have just seen sa mga reports natin.
May solusyon ako dito sa 585 billion.
Million ba? Billion nata yun eh. Billion nata. Billion. Billion. Letter B, ha?
Para hindi na humiram ang gobyerno.
Ano solusyon?
Huwag nang gastusin yung unprogrammed funds na 500 billion plus na nilagay ni Tambaloslo sa ating budget. Bakit pa sila hihirap ng pera kung wala naman silang pagkakagastusan? Pangalawa, itong mawawala sa ating central bank, itong dalawang bangko, pinilay nila. No? Ito actually ang solusyon. Na yung solusyon, binasura nila at ginagamit nila sa korupsyon. Bakit ko nasabi yun? Bukod ho sa Land Bank at sa may tutulong ng Development Bank of the Philippines, lahat ho ng bangko ay required by law to make 25% of their loanable funds available for countryside development. In other words, for agriculture. Ano ba problema ng ating mga farmers? Pera. Pero, yung mga bankero naglabi at meron na ngayong exception by law na kasi pag hindi sila nagpahiram, pe-penalize sila. Babayad sila na. At so ang ginawa ng mga bangko, naglabi, nag-amenda ng batas na magbabayad na lang sila ng penalty imbes na ipahiram ito sa ating mga farmers. Na yun ay option na pwedeng gawin. Yun yung tinatawag ni Presidente Marcos Sr. na agri-agra law. Pero nagtayo pa ng Land Bank of the Philippines precisely to help the farmers. Pero noong 1990s po, rinaibitize nila ito. At ginawa nilang isang universal, una commercial bank, tapos universal bank. At ngayon, kinakaltasan pa para sa pondo ng Maharlika Investment Fund na alam naman natin counterpart fund na pagsusoli ng mga hidden wealth ng Marcoses. Maybe we can discuss that later in passing sa article ni Sasor Galdo Sasor. So anyway, ang pera ho ay intended for privatization purposes. At ang una na ay bago pa makunin yung 50 bilyones mula sa Land Bank, ay kinilatisan na po ng 20 billion ang Land Bank at ito ay nabigay kay Aboitiz. Kaya si Aboitiz ngayon, dahil nag-post siya ng 27.5 billion profit sa kanyang Aboitiz Energy, hindi pa kasama dyan yung iba niyang mga negosyo. Sobra-sobra ho ang pera ni Aboitiz ngayon, kaya pati yung Coca-Cola nabili na niya. Dahil bukod sa kanyang sariling pondo, bukod sa kanyang sariling bangko, may bangko ho si Aboitiz. Union Bank. Bakit? Umihiram pa siya sa Land Bank. Nawala na naman ng 20 billion ang mga farmers sa Land Bank. Dito naman sa traffic sa Metro Manila, may solusyon ako dito. Kaya lang hindi ko bibigyan detalya. Ang una ko naging solusyon dito nung panahon ni Duterte ay kasama ako sa mga usapan tungkol sa pagresolba sa problema ng mga bus. At sa akin ho nang galing, mga kabansa, parating kay Secretary Tugade ang ideya niyang bus rapid transit with a twist. Dahil hindi naman ho original na ang concept ng bus rapid transit ay akin. Pero mayroong kiniti para maibsan ang traffic sa EDSA. Kasi napansin ko, pag nasa kanan ng mga bus, dalawang linya ang gridlock. So sabi ko, ilagay yung mga bus sa kaliwa. Sabi nila, paano yung mga bus stop? Ang mga bus stop kako, ikonekta sa mga MRT 3 overpasses at saka doon sa mga pedestrian overpasses.
Kado na iba yung
ating mga bus ngayon sa EDSA nasa kaliwa.
Naibang subject, Kado, tapusin mo na yan kasi nawawala tayo sa topic ng mga bus transit rapid transit system na yan. I-wrap up mo with
magpapaibsa ho ng traffic. May mga iba pa ako ideya. Yan ho, yung mga ideya nakuha ko sa pagmamatsyag ng traffic sa Canada at saka sa even Hong Kong and sa US mismo. So
I doubt that any solution even that will help kasi talagang benta lang na sila ng benta every year ng kotse. Wala nung karagdagan na flyover, bridges, natigil nga yung mga bridges and so on. Yung subway na lang po ang pwedeng
kasi nga kami
siguro.
Ang premise, 70% ng traffic dyan ay private vehicles. 30% lamang ang public vehicles. So, nandoon ang solusyon sa 70%.
Okay. Well, I want to respond to two questions here. Number one, sabi dito Raul, I don't understand the negative 8% drop in total trade volume versus 2.7% growth in Philippine-China trade. Well, kung baga sabihin natin, pie chart, yung buong pie lumiit, pero yung pie slice ng China-Philippine trade lumaki. That's the best way. Is that better understood kaya? Lumiit ang buong pie, pero yung bahagi na yung hiwa po ng Philippine-China trade doon sa lumiit na pie, lumaki. That's what it means. The other question is from, I cannot find the name again, but the question was, paano na-privatize ang Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas? Now, this thing I will read will show you how it was privatized, no? Okay, this is dated, itong report na to is January 22, 2024, itong nakaraang 2 buwan lang po, . Okay. The let me just read the function of the powerful. Anyway, sabi dito, Finance Secretary Ralph Recto took his oath of office as the government sector representative to the Monetary Board, the powerful 7-member group that steers the country's monetary policies. Ayan. Okay. Ang Monetary Board po ang siyang namamahala ng monetary policy o mga lahat ng patakaran tungkol sa pera natin. Ilang bilyon taon-taon ang iuutang, ilang bilyon taon-taon ang i-issue pera, anong pribilehiyo ng mga bangko, anong policies favoring big business ba, favoring small and medium scale enterprises, favoring micro and so sila ang nagdedetermine. So sino-sino po ang director po today. Romeo Bernardo, private sector representative. Anita Aquino, private sector representative. Pakibilang lang po sa daliri po ninyong private sector representative. Former Finance Secretary and BSP Governor Benjamin Diokno, sitting as a private sector representative. Bangko Central Governor Eli Remolona, sitting as chairperson. Let's assume that that is government. Finance Secretary Ralph Recto, sitting as government sector representative. Bruce Tolentino, sitting as private sector representative. Former Treasurer of the Philippines, Rosalia De Leon, sitting as private sector representative. So ilan po ang private sector out of the 7? 5. At 7 ang government representative. So that is how it was privatized. And it is a quasi-government institution. It has autonomy from the government. So that's the second factor why it is privatized. May COA po only to report. Only reporting to COA, but COA cannot interfere in the policies po. So it is practically and literally private control. So before Cory sat as president in Marcos's time, reverse po ang ratio. Hindi lang po reverse. I think 6 out of 7 board members were government representative. So, yun ang mga tricks doon sa EDSA 1, na hindi po kita ng mga tao. And so, I'm trying to do a quick research on how the National Treasury was converted also to a inutil institution dahil po nilipat ang custodianship ng treasury bills po natin at issuance ng treasury bills doon sa private banks. But medyo hazy sa akin po because I crusaded that as an issue in the year 2000 and 2001. Kado, are you there? Kado, we can hear you. So yung background po ninyo, if you can mute for a while you're discussing there. So I hope I answered the 2 questions. Let me go to Raul. Please Viber me if you still are murky about that data that we reported. We will now go to the attempt to silence Sara Duterte, but by the Inquirer and initiated by Franz Castro, if I'm not mistaken, dahil po ginigiit ni Franz Castro yung West Philippine Sea issue at kung bakit si Sara Duterte ay tahimik po dyan. Unang-unang reaksyon ko talaga ay ano bang pakialam ni Sara Duterte as Vice President and as Department of Education? As a Department of Education, she has her own responsibilities and that is what she will be addressing. And there is, as Paulo Duterte also said, which I agree with po, ang susunod na report natin, Representative Duterte, hello, nawala ka sa screen? Ano ka ba? Let's try to, nakabalik na po si Kado. Representative Duterte tells the group to ask West Philippine Sea questions from DFA, DND, and not from the Vice President. which is correct. No? I think Kaado will give us his views about this more thoroughly. And as I reported in the introduction, finally lumabas na po yung katotohanan dito, loud and clear. Ex-President Duterte, China had a deal to keep the West Philippine Sea status quo, meaning as is, and going po to Sasrogando, who gave an advice to Sara Duterte on anyway, this is about the betrayal of BBM, because sabi niya nung nagsimula si Bongbong Marcos, his foreign policy pronouncement during the campaign period, he reversed all his foreign policy pronouncements during the campaign period. He expanded the U.S. military presence in the Philippines, adding 4 more military bases and so on. Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong asked last year in an interview whether the Filipinos want to be the battleground between the U.S. and China. Why did Marcos shift his decade-long foreign policy stances? The answer cannot be disentangled from the fact that his family's assets are frozen in banks in Western countries to the tune of several $billion. The wave of history that Marcos wanted to break is linked to his quest to redeem his family's name. His election as president already gave him that redemption in Philippine politics. In a surreal twist, the Philippine mainstream media, which have been traditionally anti-Marcos, are now ostentatiously pro-Marcos. Yet Marcos' quest to have his redemption arc in the international community continues. For several decades, the Marcoses were pariah. Now the international is next. The local is settled. The international is next. And the best way to do it is to give the West what it wants, a barking dog against their economic rival, a battering ram against a country the West desperately wants to bring to its knees. Anyway, I confused this with another post ni Sasrogando advising Sara on her response if she wanted to make a response to that accusation about silence about the West Philippine Sea. And ang advice po niya is to discuss ASEAN and the interests of ASEAN, to peacefully resolve the issues there, and to go on with ASEAN and China in the economic progress and stability of the region. So that was the other post that I thought I had posted here. But I just want to remind everybody that very recently lang po, we already reported that Duterte made undocumented informant agreement with President Xi Jinping. Joshua, you can flash this next and final poster natin dito sa series na to on the issue. Ex-President Duterte, China had deal to keep West Philippines. Yung kay Roque pala po yan, no? He said that. And now we reported this and we showed this. Sabi ni Duterte mismo, will you allow the Chinese to fish? Of course. That's what we talked about before. That's why we talked. And that was why we were allowed to fish again. It was a mutual agreement. And I think this was referring to the Scarborough Shoal. No? Duterte said at a speech in Malacanang last week, presidential spokesman Salvador Panelo meanwhile revealed that the two leaders did not formally sign documents on the supposed fishing deal in Philippine waters. I don't think they signed an agreement, sabi ni Sal Panelo. They just talk, world leaders have a word of honor. Ayan. But Bongbong does not have any word of honor on anything. So he does not deserve to be president of this republic. Okay. Ayan, ito naman po yung advice ni Sara, na-retrieve po ni Joshua. Sabi ni Sara, ang sagot dapat sabi ni Sasrogando pala, Sasot, to Sara, if Sara is a visionary, the statement she should be releasing must be about Asian rejuvenation, mutual development of Asian countries, the sane choice of engagement and patient work of Asian-led diplomacy that aims to find middle ground and pursues it no matter how difficult it could be, and solidarity with Asian countries that do not want Uncle Sam's war in Ukraine and the Middle East to come to the shores of Asia. If this will be Sarah's positioning, she will have the entire attention of the entire global South, which is the majority of the world, and position herself in an Asian states as an Asian statesman and not America's bitch baby. The message should be free, should be peace, development, and solidarity of the global South. Actually, I have a article being published in China Daily next few days. So I hope they send it to me as soon as it's published, declaring exactly this message. That I said in my title, the global South is the global majority making the future of the world. So nawawala talaga si BBM doon sa agos ng panahon ngayong ika-21 siglo ng sangkatuhan, the 21st century. And yun ay nais kong mabatid po ng ating audience at maikalat po sa ibang mga Pilipino. Okay. And in part of the series po is what we already discussed a bit, when Harry Roque's claim to the gentleman's agreement was addressed to Senator Ronald de la Rosa. Ang sabi niya? Okay. Clueless ako. I'm looking for it. I cannot find it. Dito pa. Senator Ronald de la Rosa, attorney on Harry Roque's claim regarding gentleman's agreement between President Rodrigo Duterte and PROC's Xi Jinping involving Ayungin Shoal. Clueless ako. But sabi niya, anything can happen if you're on top at nakikita mo yung mga probabilities, yung mga push and pull, nakikita mo. Anyway, that's the end of the quote. So that's Ronald de la Rosa. Tuloy na natin. Ay pwedeng makagawa ka nga ng mga ganoong klaseng agreement. Pwede. Pero as I've said, I cannot comment kung tama ba yan o mali. Bakit hindi ka maka-comment kung tama o mali? Una-una, the President of the Republic of the Philippines is a sovereign entity. He can decide. He is the architect of the country's foreign policy, number 2. Number 3, it is very clear in the preamble of the Philippine Constitution, the welfare of the people. Hindi ba nakabuti sa taong bayan yan? Sa mga fishermen? Yes. Ronald Bato, bakit hindi mo masagot yon? And then dinagdag niya, hintayin natin yung explanation niya, ex-President Duterte, kung bakit nakipag-agreement siya ng ganun. If ever totoo. Well, wala kang sariling isip mo, Ronald Bato. Okay, Kaado, nawala ka na naman.
Okay, tungkol dito kay Sara.
Yeah.
I disagree with Sasurogando Sasso.
Go ahead.
Sara Duterte should remain silent on foreign policy issues kasi very clear dyan na ang chief architect of Philippine foreign policy is the president. That's one. The second reason is this involved foreign countries. Okay? And it's really the DFA that is holding the chief advisory position here. The Secretary of Education and the Office of the Vice President are not private to this. Pangatlo, Sara Duterte is free to comment on anything on domestic issues. Why? Because she is also an elected elected official of the country, the second highest. And she also represents a different political party from the president. No? So, bakit? On the basis of the first reason, makakabawas si Sara Duterte. Makakabawas siya kung she will go public with her own opinions. The proper protocol there is bulungan na lang niya presidente. Meron naman siya direct access. Let the president know her position. But only the president. Because going to the public will be further confusing the people na gulong-gulo na nga tayo. Oh, nandiyan na si Marcos, nandiyan na si Manalo, nandiyan na si Dasa, nandiyan na si, sino pa ba yung isa? Si, nandiyan na si Gibo, nandiyan na si Ed Anyo, nandiyan na si Tariela, nandiyan na si, pangalan to, si Jonathan Malaya, nandiyan na si Jay Batumbakal. Ano pa ba kailangan dyan? Ang problema kasi, sabi ko nga kanina, yung premise ng Philippine position. At napakahaba naman para discussing ko rito ngayon. For the Vice President to still go into this na ang dami-dami ng kusinero, kaya wala nang lasa yung niluluto nila. Too many cooks spoil the broth. Kung hindi ninyo maiayos yan, what is in the vice, miski na hindi si Duterte ang Vice President, I will still comment this way. Unless, in the case of Cory Aquino, dinesignate niya na Secretary of Foreign Affairs si Doy Laurel. Ayan, pwede pa dyan. Pero excuse me lang, dahil ito ay suhestyon o patikos ng isang kutong utak, itong AkBayad president na si Rafaela David, na wala namang alam sa utak kundi cancel culture. Nagki-clickbait ka pa, Rafaela. Marami ka pang kakanin. Kaya huwag kang paharang-harang na katulad nito. So yan ang posisyon ko. I'm supporting the position of Paulo Duterte. Now,
that's correct.
When it comes to Sas Rogando Sasot, sa kanyang article, ito ang aking gustong ipaalam sa madla. Sabi niya, why did Marcos shift in his decade-long foreign policy stances? Alam niyo mga kabansa, bago senador pa lang, si Bongbong, natalo siyang vice-presidente ng kampanya sa vice-presidente, natalo siya. At sa kanyang kampanya, pangulo, consistent siya. Pero bakit siya nagpalit ng kanyang foreign policy stances? Sabi ni Sasot, the answer cannot be disentangled from the fact that his family's assets are frozen in banks in Western countries to the tune of several billion dollars. Ito nga ang rason kung bakit siya biyahe ng biyahe, dahil wala naman talagang rason para siya ay magbiyahe. Ito ang rason kung bakit siya biyahe ng biyahe. Nagbubukas ng mga bank accounts yan doon sa mga dinadalaw niyang mga countries. And this is his best shot, sabi ni Sasot, to recover all of them, which have been frozen for over 3 decades. It is a tit for tat that Marcos surely cannot refuse. Komenta ni Sasot. Komenta ko pala dito. This is why sabi ko, Mentong, China can no longer hope to change the mind of Marcos, who, given the situation, has obviously been taken hostage by the United States. Ahente na nga ho siya ng Estados Unidos. The idiot is signing a trilateral security pact with Japan and the United States on April 11, and predictably compromised to renew the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement that terminates on April 28. Ha? Kaya nga, alam nyo bang hindi aksidente ito nangyayari ngayon sa South China Sea? Yung mga banggaan dyan, yung patintero dyan, hindi ho aksidente yan. This is a case build-up ni Marcos to justify kung bakit siya pipirma sa trilateral agreement sa Washington DC sa April 11 at kung bakit I'm already predicting that he will compromise the country in the renewal of the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, maybe for another 10 years. Build up yan eh. Case build up yan. Talaga hong sinasadya nila ng pagkagulo dyan. Para nga masabi na wala na akong choice eh. Kasi magulong-magulo. Hindi ba yun ang sinasabi ni Marcos? Magulong-magulo na kasi eh. Kailangan ng Pilipinas ng tulong eh. Hindi naman ito para sa Amerika, hindi naman to para sa Japan, hindi naman to para sa Australia, hindi naman to para sa Germany. Gago ka pala eh. Bakit ka nagpo-propose ng security agreements with this country? You are acting as the agent of the United States in building a Southeast Asian NATO equivalent here. Nako, sus Mario Josep, bistado na. Why would the Filipino people, therefore, ba't kailangan pa tayong maghintay ng economic sanctions? Galing sa China o gera galing sa China? When the Constitution already allows the removal of this president by virtue of the breach of public trust, and if I may add, by any possible means. Resign. Remove Marcos already. Wala na yan.
Yes.
Dadali na tayo dire-diretso sa kumunoy niyan. Bibigyan pa ba natin ng completion ng 6 na taon niyan? My God, the damage he will give our country for the next 4 years will be irreversible. Ngayon pa lang eh. Wala nang pumapasok. Ikot siya ng ikot. Build up siya ng build up. Kulo ng foreign direct investment. Sino ang gagong third party ang papasok to invest in the country kung may gera dyan sa South China Sea? Kung mataas ang kuryente, kung ang korupsyon ng kanyang asawa ay hindi mabawasan.
Okay,
at kung paano nila ginagamit ang kanilang poder para yurakan ang karapatan, lalo na sa pagpapahayag ng taong bayan. Thank you.
Okay, sabi ni Amik TV45 from UK, nagpadala po ng 1.99 British pound and sabi niya, definitely agree, Kado, well said. And to Raul asking the question, kasi hindi niya ma-comprehend completely, ito po ang data that you will now that will complete your understanding. For the entire 2023, total export declined by 7.6% to $73.52 billion US dollars. Total exports declined by 7.6%, while imports likewise contracted by 8.2% to $125.95 billion US dollars. So lumiit nga yung bibingka. Pero doon sa lumiit na bibingka, yung bahagi na kontribusyon ng China lumaki by what I read kanina, 8% or something like that, or no, by 2.7%. I forget already. So 2.7%. So lumaki yung bahagi ng China, trade ng China at Pilipinas within that smaller pie. So yun, 2.7%. So yung isa tungkol sa Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, I hope I answered the question completely. Hindi ko na mahanap yung follow-up question kung meron, no? But if I see it, I'll try to answer po. And let me see. Okay, let's move on. It's already 7:21. By the way, ipopostpone din natin ulit ang raffle natin tonight. I'm negotiating to buy I'm asking for some discounts to buy the new book of Rio Zablan. Let me see, I already communicated with him. Sabi niya, hinihintay lang niya mag-imprenta po sa Pilipinas, and he will tell me how much discount he will give. Ang kanyang pamagat ay Malayan Tale. I don't know if Ka Joshua can take a look at it. A Malayan Tale, Pre-Colonial Philippines and its relations with Southeast Asia, China, and Europe. Sulat po ni Ginoong Rio Sablan. Si Rio Sablan po ang ating unang kinunan din po nung kanyang libro, yung kanyang unang libro na Arnis. Ka Joshua, nasa screen ko. I don't know if you can flash it on the screen, but if not, it's okay. We'll just flash it on Sunday. So, Sunday po tayo mag-raffle ulit. Okay, let's now move on to the so-called harassment daw. Unang-una, dalawang story yan. Yung harassment daw ng mga scientifico na Pilipino doon sa Sandy Cay. At pangalawa, yung harassment daw doon sa huling water cannoning doon sa Ayungin Shoal na meron pang mga naka-bandage na ulo, and we will talk about that. But let's first look at this. Scientist group condemns harassment of researchers near Pag-asa Island. Ito po yung Sandy Cay. Parang tulay buhangin lang po yun, no? Sandy Cay na sa pagitan po ng I think pagitan ng I forget and Sandy Cay nasa gitna, and then Pag-asa Island po. Okay. Now, I'm checking lang. Okay. Ang susunod na balita, yan pa rin po. Sabi ng ABS-CBN, Philippine government scientists na sugatan sa pag-aaligid ng Chinese chopper. I don't know how that happened, but alam naman natin ng media natin po, talagang lahat i-exaggerate po, dahil po yun ang strategy ng transparency strategy ni Raymond Powell ng Amerikanong ex-US Colonel, US Air Force Colonel Raymond Powell. Yan ang strategy na kanyang binigay para sa mga US proxies dito sa Pilipinas na gawin. Okay. Ayan si Raymond Powell. Pinas na naman po. We have to keep flashing this guy kasi siya ang talagang konduktor ng lahat ng mga nangyayari. Hindi po si BBM . But anyway, the next report natin from News 5 everywhere. Video po na report. Anong sabi? Scientists, Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources crew, pinahanginan ng helicopter ng China sa Sandy Cay 3 at 4. Pinahanginan. Sabi ng ibang report, 50 meters above daw ang taas ng helicopter na dumaan. Pero sabi ng ibang report ngayon, nasugatan, show me the photo. Show me the photo. Yan naman paulit-ulit natin sinasabi sa kanila . Meron daw 4 na sugatan doon sa dating water cannoning. Walang photo. Nung nakaraang taon, military grade laser daw, nakakasunog. Saan ang photo ng sunog? Pakita nyo. Anyway, ito pinahanginan ng helicopter ng China. Ang Sandy Cay 3 and sa Sandy Cay 3 and 4. Ang mga scientists daw na Pinoy and BFAR crew, pero walang ebidensyang pinapakita. Pinahanginan, sabi nitong isang report. Sabi naman ng iba, yung unang pinakita natin kung gaano kagrabe na. Philippine government scientist na sugatan sa pag-aaligid ng Chinese chopper. Aywan ko ba? Anyway, we move on, no? Yung drama-drama ng mga US proxies po ang tagal na po ng story nila. Ito po from 2017 pa po si Magdalo Gary Alejano, Chinese flag daw planted on Philippine Sandy Island. In the end wala naman pala. Unang-una, disputed yung Sandy Island na yan, or China claims it as its own territory too. So, huwag nating jump the gun, ika nga kung dispute, pag-usapan. Pero sinusubo niyo ang Pilipinas sa masamang sitwasyon. Tapos sa mga reports po, yes, Kado, you were saying.
Bakit tayo nasa Sandy Cay?
Bakit mahina ang audio mo ngayon? Baka sobrang malayo ka sa mikropono?
Ang sabi ko, bakit tayo nasa Sandy Cay?
Go ahead.
Anong karapatan natin na tayo ay nasa Sandy Cay? Sandy Cay is 42 nautical miles from Pag-asa. Wala nga tayong titulo sa Pag-asa eh. Our only claim to anything there is we are in possession of the island. Okay, two things. Parola sa ating Republic Act 9522, baseline slope. Pag-asa Island and Parola are already outside the 200 nautical miles from our baselines in Palawan. Therefore, it is not part of any exclusive economic zone entitlement. That's number one. Number two, despite without title, we are in occupation of Pag-asa Island. Assuming we have sovereignty over Pag-asa Island. Pag-asa Island has been classified as a rock, as a high tide elevation by the 2016 arbitral ruling, and is entitled only to 12 nautical miles of sovereign sea, of territorial sea. It's the argument kami ito, ha? Arguando. Arguing on the basis of na atin yan. So 30 nautical miles, labas na sa territorial sea ng Pag-asa Island ang Sandy Cay. Anong ginagawa natin dyan? Sino ang in possession of the area? Nagpaalam ba tayo? Nag-coordinate ba tayo? Wala. So kung kayo ay nangangahas na gumawa ng kung anumang picnic nyo dyan, you are putting yourself in harm's way. At huwag kayong nagre-reklamo kung kayo ay malunod dyan, masaktan o masugatan dahil kayo ay tinataboy ng mga Chino. The fact that you went there, you are already fair game because you have put yourself voluntarily in harm's way. So, yan lang ang pagtitibay dyan. Simple lang yan. Ang problema kasi kami ito, at ito ina-address ko hindi lang kay Gibo, kundi kay National Security Advisor Eduardo Anus. Walang official map ang Pilipinas. Walang official map ang Pilipinas. Huwag niyo akong bigyan ng mapa na galing sa National Bookstore. Ang kailangan kong mapa ay yung official map na presenta ng NAMRIA sa International Hydrographic Association at ito ay sinumite sa United Nations at inaprobahan ng United Nations. Wala tayong mapa. Pero kami ito na itong mga utak pulbura katulad ni Gibo Teodoro, Eduardo Anos at kung sino-sino pa dyan, yung si Tariela, na isinusubo tayo ang ating mga sundalo, ating mga tropa, ating Navy sa gera, ganong hindi naman nila determine pag nandyan na sila sa dagat kung nasaan sila. Technically, basta umalis sila sa 12 nautical mile Pilipinas, they are already lost at sea, Mentong, technically speaking, because of the absence of the map, official map.
Okay, very comprehensive presentation, Kaado. Very comprehensive explanation. Okay, let's move on. So, ang business world at ang mga media puro pagyayabang po that India backs Philippine national sovereignty moves in the West Philippine Sea. Unang-una, wala po yan sa mapa ng India. Pangalawa, pagbasahin po ninyo ng detalyado po, ito po ang mababasa po ninyo tungkol dito sa balita diyan, on that matter. Yan, India backs Philippine national sovereignty moves. Sabi ng Business World headline and mga ibang diaryo din. Pero pag binasa po ninyo yung detalye sa loob, ito po, ang Indian Prime Minister, Foreign Minister Jaishankar, the report itself says, fell short of condemning China. Unlike other countries like the Quad members, US, Japan, Australia, alam naman natin po, mga tuta ng Amerikano yan, which did so after Philippine Coast Guard vessels harassed a rotation. Chinese Coast Guard, nagkamali pang reporter po dyan. Chinese Coast Guard vessel harassed a rotation RORE mission to Ayungin. So, Jaishankar did not condemn China, nor did he condemn the water cannoning and the blockading and whatever China did. He did not condemn. Kasi India will not contradict China directly. Inaalagaan din niya ang relasyon niya sa China at ayaw niya lumabas na tuta siya ng Estados Unidos. So let's make that very clear. Now, next image po, and Ka Joshua, yung video, I don't know if you're ready with it. Ito po, hindi naman natin makukuha po sa ating media reports, TV reports, TV news, hindi natin makikita to. Siyempre, makukuha po natin yan sa Chinese media. From the columnist po ng Global Times, Hu Shijin, ito po, sabi niya, a white flag, the Philippines deployed 2 Coast Guard vessels and 1 supply vessel to illegally intrude into the waters near China's Renai Jiao. Saturday, facing water cannon, Philippine personnel waved a white flag. Yan po ang video. So, surrender na po talaga yan. Now, we can understand po, and sabi nga ng Philippine reports, mas mataas ang water pressure na ginamit dito. And of course, baka nabasa na silang lahat, nabasa na po yung mga cargo nilang mga semento or whatever. But we will not see this in our Philippine media. Now, I hope the Philippine Coast Guard will take this and dispute it para tingnan natin kung anong sagot nila. So, before I get the reaction of everyone and I'll move on. Now, ito po yung sinasabing mga nasaktan po ng water cannon in the last episode noong March 23. Initially, lahat ng photo po na nakita ko ay naka-blur po yung mga sinasabing nasaktan. Nakabalot lang ng bandage yung ulo, and so on. So I thought baka tinatago nila ang identity kasi ayaw nilang ma-interview talaga ng totoong interview. So I really can't tell. But this afternoon may nakita akong photo, nakita ng mga mukha ng 4. But it's still unconvincing. Parang setup talaga. Ano bang sugat yan? Madaling mag-arte po. I'm sorry if I'm skeptical. Kasi yung paawa effect po sobrang matingkad na impression na mahirap po basta-basta tanggapin po yung pinipresenta po ng ating armed forces. What is very clear po, puro interview dito sa next image po. Kayo ngayon, kita na yung mga yan. Puro photograph, ano. I listened to the discussion, hindi pa rin convincing. But anyway, skeptic naman talaga tayo. Now, in ANC and other stations, other networks, ito na naman po ang ini-interview, Amerikanong si Raymond Powell, ex-United States Air Force Colonel. Siyang brainstorm, what do you call it? Brains behind the Operation Museo. Yung project name po nitong Assertive Transparency na in short is really Hitlerian propaganda. Hitlerian brainwashing of the mass population. Itong tinatawag na manufacturing of consent for war. Ayan po. And this is for the latest. This is just yesterday ata ito na hindi ko na ilagay ang date but it's very new. Okay. So yan ang mga balita tungkol diyan sa mga insidente both sa Sandy Cay and diyan po sa latest sa Ayungin Shoal. Ado, if you want to add to this before we go to international developments na po?
I'd just like to comment on the statement of Gibot Chodoro. Anong sabi niya? Anong sabi ni Gibot Chodoro? Kamakailan ng Pilipinas sa China nadalhin sa international arbitration ang mga claim nitong sovereignty. Dali ng China, no?
Yeah.
Sa katimugang karagatan. Sinabi ni Teodoro sa mga reporter at pawang walang alam at tamad mag-research naman itong mga reporter na ito. Kung ang China hindi natatakot na ipahayag ang mga claim nito sa mundo, bakit hindi tayo mag-arbitrate sa ilalim ng batas internasyonal? Ako'y nagulat dito sa statement na ito ni Secretary Teodoro dahil alam ko na siya isang bar top notcher noong 1989. Number 1, siya isang Master of Laws degree mula sa Harvard. Siya isang Doctor of Laws sa West Negros University. Pero wala siyang kamuhang-muhang sa kabobohan ng sinabi niya. Bakit? Alam mo, Gibo, hindi na kailangan ito dahil nagawa na ito. Ang gusto mong maresolusyonan ng mga isyu ay nandyan sa mismong pinagmamalaki ninyo na 2016 arbitral ruling. Nandyan na. No? Nakapokus kayo dun sa sa 9-dash line. Pero ang sinabi ng arbitral ruling tungkol sa 9-dash line, paragraph 278, ito ay illegal. Walang base na legal. Hoy, ito ay contrary to the convention at wala itong lawful effect under the convention. Maliwanag na maliwanag, mga kabansa. Yan ang sinabi ng arbitral ruling sa ilalim ng konbensyon. Ngayon, Gibo, hindi ito sinabi ng arbitral award na ito ay salungat sa batas internasyonal. Dahil ang UNCLOS ay isa lamang tratado o treaty sa loob ng batas internasyonal. Hindi ito ang kabuuan ng batas internasyonal. Alam niyo po ba, mga kabansa, kung ilan ang tratado na meron sa ngayon sa proceedings ng National Academy of Sciences ng Estados Unidos ng Amerika? Over 250,000 international treaties. na nilambag ng iba't ibang mga bansa bago pa man dumating ang UNCLOS noong 1982 at naging epektibo noong 1994. Hindi naghusga Gibo Teodoro ang arbitral ruling ukol sa pag-aari ng China na base, hindi naman dyan sa 9-dash line na drawing lang yan o mapa. Kung hindi sa historical rights. Ano ang sinasabi ng award sa Part 272? Sa partikular, binibigyan diin ng tribunal na walang anumang bagay sa award na ito ay dapat maunawaan na nagkomento sa anumang paraan sa makasaysayang pag-angkin ng China sa mga isla sa South China Sea. Ayan mga kabansa. Pangalawa, ukol, sinabi na natin kanina, ukol dito. Ukol naman dito. Sa Ayungin Shoal, wala po mga kabansa, wala pong exclusive economic zone na pwedeng i-claim dyan ang Pilipinas dahil sang-ayon sa tribunal ay wala sa kanilang jurisdiction dahil yan ay quintessentially militarized area. So ayan, maliwanag po ba mga kabansa? Dahil sinasabi nila na meron tayong karapatan dyan dahil yan ay parte ng ating exclusive economic zone. Hello?
Okay, Kado. Yeah, that's
Wala
very
po
thorough.
dahil militarized
Okay.
yan.
Okay, mabuti at napaliwanagan mo ulit, Kado. Thank you. Sabi dito ni Rio Carlos, interviewin nyo si BBM. Ano na, hindi yan kano. Well, actually, na-interview na namin si BBM nung 2019 pa. Lahat ng sinabi, 2021, lahat ng sinabi po niya doon sa kampanya at doon sa programa namin po, kabaliktaran na po ang nangyayari. Kaya okay lang. If he is ready to face us with, I doubt that he is willing to kasi alam niyang madudurog ang kanyang pagkatao dahil sa manliliit siya. In other words, no? Maraming magandang message dito pero we're running out of time so I'll just move on. And ito po ang reaksyon ng isang komentarista ng Russia Today, si Timur Fomenko. The US is cultivating an antagonist to China in Beijing's own backyard. Siyempre, si Bongbong Marcos yan, hindi Noynoy Aquino, Bongbong Marcos. So, nag-aalaga ng isang mga away sa China. Ayan ang ibig sabihin. You can read this po sa Russia Today if you want to see an alternative view. And this is the summary po sent to us about what really the Chinese perception of what happened. The boat transported large amount of construction materials on March 23. The purpose is not to resupply life necessities but to repair and reinforce the illegally grounded warship. And alam naman po natin, we have always reported for several months now, the Americans have published an article declaring that they want to have a combined forward operating base Sierra Madre doon sa lugar na yon para pang-atake sa China. So one of the hundreds of bases they want to set up. Number two, China clearly communicated opposition to the Philippines beforehand. Do we have a record of that? Kinommunicate nila until the 11th hour, until the last minute, and asked the Philippines to stop the mission. The Philippines ignored it. And number three, Philippines has repeatedly gone back on its words, in its own words. Again, this time, sincerity or credibility, question mark. The door to dialogue is always open. Again, this is sent to me by Chinese diplomat, para ma-summarize. In other words, number four, sinasabi na hindi pa rin away dapat ito, dapat mag-usap. Paulit-ulit nila sinasabi yan. Although Kaado believes otherwise na. Okay, yung libro po aking inaanunsyo kanina na ating ninegotiate to buy for our audience raffle. Ito po, hindi po, sorry. Next Sunday ko na lang i-announce yung librong yun. Ito po yung libro. Again, confirming that even the Americans know that the Spratlys had been occupied by China even before. Kaya po after the Second World War, they were going to give it back because it was occupied by Japan. But this book, The Beautiful Country and the Middle Kingdom by John Pomfrey, I think that's the right way to pronounce it. I will read from the quotation from the book, page 447 ata. The Korean War is a violent example of how American-Chinese interactions changed U.S. and world history. The war prompted the United States to alter the terms of the San Francisco Treaty that had ended the Pacific War with Japan. Previously, Washington had considered handing China a string of islands. Ibibigay daw ng Washington yung string of islands. Ano yung islands na yun? The Spratlys and the Paracels in the South China Sea that Japan had once occupied. The Americans had pondered giving Taiwan to China as well. Instead, the treaty signed by 49 countries on September 8, 1951 left the status of the island chains in the South China Sea undetermined, kept Taiwan from mainland China, and gave the U.S. administrative control over Okinawa and the Senkaku Islands, which the U.S. would use for military exercises. Decades later, the ownership of these territories remained a source of tension in Asia. So another confirmation that Western journalists and historians are admitting, recording, writing that the Spratlys and the Paracels were to be given back to China. The Korean War made the Americans change their mind as they planned to use all these for their containment of China. Okay. Well, I wrote this article, Assertive Transparency is US pro-war hype versus China. I will not dwell on it. You can visit po Pinoy Expose or my column article there. Ito naman po ang from Global Times editorial, US interfering hinders peaceful settlement of South China Sea issue. According to Philippine scholar, that is po Romel Banlawi, who is becoming very, very more productive and constructive lately. And in fact, kate-text po lang niya sa akin ngayon while we're broadcasting. Sabi niya, good evening, Attorney Harry Roque just called me, si Romel Banlawi. He is being attacked by trolls about his most recent statement on the West Philippine Sea. He needs help to support him. Sabi ko, we are supporting him right now on our show. And we will hold a symposium on April 4. And we will invite him to discuss all these. So these are ongoing activities that I'm reporting to you. Ito naman, naglabas po nito, Global Times, US military activities in the South China Sea and surrounding areas in 2023. Recorded po yan, yung mga increase po. Close aerial reconnaissance, unmanned systems being used, drones and submarine drones, large-scale military naval drills, and so on. So if you want to get more information here, we'll try to publish this in Asian Century Journal. Okay, I'll keep moving on. It's now 7:49. Okay, from Defense Security Asia, American publication po, nag-report po sila. The US made F-16 too pricey, too expensive. Manila considers Sweden's JAS-39 Gripen and used fighter jets. Again, second-hand po ang bibilin po. What's the point? Di ba? Okay. Meanwhile, ang mga Amerikano, alalang-alala, nerbiyosong-nerbiyoso tungkol sa growing naval power of China. Ito po, published in Asia Times, written by Jerry Hendricks. Sabi po ng headline niya, title niya, China's maritime power calls for action and alarm. The People's Liberation Army Navy is now and has been for several years larger than the US Navy, with over 370 ships currently in commission. What's more, in a few years, if it continues its current building rate, it will reach 450 ships, making it larger than the US Navy and Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force combined. In my article, I said that this is China's way of fighting a war, winning a war without fighting. Talagang overwhelming force that they just show without using. So, yan din po ang talagang tactic po dyan sa South China Sea in containing the provocations designed by the Americans using Filipino proxies. Kaya they don't have to use firearms or things like that. Now, we'll briefly breeze through the crisis in Moscow dun sa terror attack and ang reaction po ng Moscow. Bakit agad-agad 1 hour after the incident nililinis na ng Estados Unidos ang role ng ng Ukraine. US bails out Ukraine after Moscow attack, covering Zelensky with ISIS. Okay, and 4 suspects charged as Russian diplomat says US did not pass along concrete information before Moscow attack. Kasi po, nag-warning ang Amerika doon sa kanilang mga citizens in Russia to stay out of these restaurants, concerts, and so on. So alam nila may nang mangyayari kasi meron silang narinig na coordination sa ilalim po ng mga operations ng CIA po nila. And of course, may mga pahaging na po very much earlier. This is reported by Russian newspaper. US Undersecretary of State, si Victoria Nuland, the one in the picture, said Putin will get nice surprises on the battlefield in 2024. Well, of course, that's a very broad statement, but the nice surprises is interpreted as a insinuation that terrorism like this is in the cards. Now, from my own experience, I know with all the history that I have been observing that the US leaves weapons for the ISIS and other terrorist groups. As in 2014, biglang pinasurrender ng mga Amerikano ang Iraqi armed forces sa mga operation areas nila at pinaiwan without of course announcing it, but iniiwan po lahat ng mga sundalong Iraqi under American control, lahat ng armas, Humvees, lahat ng mga weapons po nila, because this was naman used in Syria by the terrorists naman. And this is no different from what General Parlade has already reported on video, recorded on video, that American planes were landing arms in Cagayan province at night for the NPA. I have more to tell you, but we don't have more time. Ito po ang meeting ni John McCain with Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, head ng ISIS. This was taken in 2016, am I correct? Hindi ko makita ang petsa. 2016, ayan. Buhay pa si Senator John McCain noon. I'm not surprised. I would not be surprised if they do that here in the Philippines very soon. They're doing that in Pakistan now. And ito po yung warning na importante po from the VIP, Veterans Intelligence Professionals American Group. The French Road to Nuclear War. Ito po, signed dun sa kanan po. May mahabang listahan po. Partial lang po itong listahan na aking nailagay po rito na pirmado ang mga former intelligence officers po ng Amerika. William Binney, and so on and so forth. Hindi ko masyado makita. But you can review our images dito sa video if you want to take a look and refer to the original material po. So sinasabi po nila that the French are already inserting troops inside Ukraine, and this is a first step towards the nuclear war that we all dread. And this is not a light opinion. This comes from intelligence officers. But we have limited time, so I will move on. Tungkol naman sa Gaza, Israel isolated as the United Nations Security Council demands immediate ceasefire in Gaza kasi po nag-abstain finally ang United States. And this will be further discussed and more tangible results will be coming We'll keep reporting on this in our next discussion with you. And that is our last image. So napakarami akong binuhos po dahil para maipasok po natin lahat. I'll look at our comments while I'm looking for the comments that we can read. Kaado, anything you want to comment on these things? Si Daniel Long just joined our commenters dito. Good evening everyone. Janine Corpus, gusto mo? Gera, BBM, sige, ikaw mauna. Danny Boy, China main battle tank 9,000, Philippines 0. China aircraft carrier is already 3 actually. The 4th one is on the way. Philippines 0. Nuclear submarine, China 3. Actually, more than 20, I understand na, no? And Philippines 0. Submarine, hindi. Submarine, nuclear submarine, China 3. I think it's more than that na. Submarine, regular submarine 40, China 0. So, kino-compare. Cheryl Hernandez says, nakakadismaya talaga itong si Gibo. Tuta din pala ng USA. Kado, what do you want to comment on?
Well, shortly lang wala na kasing oras. Ay ngayon pong Holy Week, ay magmuni-muni tayo dahil tayo dapat mga alagad ng katotohanan. Mga kabansa, huwag tayong padadala sa mga chismis na ikinakalat ng ating gobyerno. Unang-una po, kaya ang gobyerno natin ay gulong-gulo sa issue na ito, ay gulong-gulo rin ho kasi ang posisyon ng Pilipinas. Unang-una, lahat ng claim natin ay hindi na ho nakabase sa presidential decree ni Marcos. Hindi na ho nakabase sa treaty limits natin under the Treaty of Paris. Hindi na ho nakabase sa kung anuman, kung hindi sa isang administrative order lamang ni Noynoy Aquino, number 29. Kaya tuwing maririnig niyo yung tinatawag na West Philippine Sea, ang ibig sabihin ho niyan, ang sinasabi sa inyo ng gobyerno, gago ka sa aking kamaniwala. Bakit ho? Because wala hong West Philippine Sea. Ang West Philippine Sea ay isa lamang pangalan. Kung gusto nyong mapatunayan yan, hanapin nyo sa internet ang Administrative Order 29 ni Bongbong Marcos. Ni Noynoy Aquino. At makikita nyo ron na yun ay nagnonombra lamang ng kaukulang teritoryo na gusto niyang i-demarcate ay West Philippine Sea at inatasan niya ang NAMRIA para gumawa ng mapa para isumite sa United Nations na hanggang ngayon ay hindi pa nagagawa ng NAMRIA. Dahil ang gulo-gulo ng ating mga batas. At meron na naman batas na ipinasa ito si Francis Tolentino na gusto pang ihalo ang Republic Act 9522, ang arbitral ruling, ang Administrative Order 29, at kung ano-ano pang halo-halo dyan. Hodgepodge, tagpi-tagpi ho na disaster ang kalalabasan sa Pilipinas because magmumukha tayong swapang sa teritoryo na hindi naman atin at pariwara sa mga teritoryo naman na binigay na sa atin ng kasaysayan. Kung ayaw natin tanggapin ang historic rights ng China, mawawalan ho tayo ng historic rights sa sarili nating 830,140 square kilometers. So, maghina-hinay tayo rito. Bantayan natin ang ating Pangulo. At meron na naman hong kalokohan na napipintong gagawin yan. Maraming salamat.
Okay. Maraming salamat kay Kado and everybody. We have to say good night. It's already 8:01. So magkita-kita tayo ulit sa linggo. And we'll be ready with more news, developments, and information. Ingat lang po sa kalusugan. Maraming nag-uubo-ubo talaga ngayon.